Hi there, I'm Waldo at Waldo Customs, and today we're going to do a comparison and review of a Guns Modify frame that has been stippled by Rainbow 8 versus a Garda frame that has been stippled by Alex Fong, who's becoming big in the teching and Glock community. And we're going to compare stipple work, and at the very end we'll also compare the frames themselves, but the focus here is going to be the stipple and cut work. So we're going to start with the one from Rainbow 8. So this Rainbow 8 frame, it cost $52, so that was 520 Hong Kong dollars plus shipping. There was an import fee of something like £13, but it was still, it's pennies adding up in the end. And yeah, I picked it up because it was quite an easy decision. You can just pick a stippled Glock frame off a shelf. There's no talking, it's just done. It said it was in T-style, and that was the theme of the build, so it just seemed like an easy decision. This is a Guns Modify frame, Gen 3, and we're going to talk more and focus more on it being Guns Modify later, but for now we'll just talk about the stippling. So as you can see, the finish is quite coarse. On the parts that aren't stippled. It's fairly matte, and the stipple work itself definitely works. It's definitely stipple that will grip your hands, but it feels like it's missing like fine grain. It feels like it could be, like it might have been used. Like, I'm not saying it is used, but it feels like it might have been through a few weeks of play. Though I doubt it came packed brilliantly as they do. It's got accelerator cuts on both sides. They're pretty simple cuts, they're rounded between the start of this part of the frame and where the frame originally was, but at quite a sharp degree, not 90 degree, but that it's noticeable when you hold it. It still grips very nicely, as frame should. It's got an undercut here, which again is sort of coarse. It's not smooth. It's just enough, yeah, to get your finger under there. It sort of brushes against this part of my knuckle. But yeah, it's still an undercut. It fits nicely. It has no finger grooves like some T-style stippling has. It's got stippling under here, a cut here, none here. We've got stipple that goes from past the slide catch all the way down through the grip, around the mag release, all the way down to the magwell, which we'll get to in a bit. I also wanted to point out that in the trigger guard, there is this little ledge, and your fingers it's just a very odd ledge to have in there. I don't really see the purpose. Perhaps before this cut was made, it made more sense into the build, but I don't see a point in it. It just seems stupid, I guess. It doesn't really degrade on performance because your finger's not coming near it, your trigger doesn't touch it, so I guess it doesn't matter, but it's nitpicking. The lines are straight. They're all straight lines, so there's no curving, there's no, it's not inconsistent. But the stipple work feels broad. It doesn't feel very fine. It feels like whatever they stippled with, the dots in between maybe spaced a bit too much, and I don't know, it feels noticeable, and it only feels noticeable because I've tried the other frame. But yeah, and the final bit, the bit that annoyed me the most, I'd say, about this frame is the magwell area. So when I put a magwell onto this, it covers existing stipple work, and because of that, it wears it away. It like pushes it up. I remember there being excess plastic that you could just peel off, and I guess that is normal for stippling. But it was annoying because now if I want to play without a magwell, it looks ugly and it scratches it up and it's just not pretty. The magwell covers it, but it means that if you use a different magwell or you don't want one, then it just looks ugly, and that's sort of annoying. I don't know if that falls within T-style, but I hope it doesn't, because I don't think this is a smart play. I don't think it works in the long game very well, or someone who might want to change up their frame a bit. Cool frame, but there's definitely room for improvement, but it's $52. Next, we have the Alex Fong frame. So I spoke to Alex after receiving my other frame because I wasn't too happy with it, and he gave me a bunch of options such as finger grooves, accelerator cuts, undercuts, the type of stippling. I wanted T-style, and he did it. He did it all. He did it for $92, including the price of the frame, not including postage. But he did post it, and it made it here all safe, considering he's in America. And it's great. I'm really impressed. So I'm gonna go over what impresses me about this build. So the undercuts are insanely amazing. It's worth pointing that all the cuts on this, so the under and the accelerator, they genuinely feel like they're done by a CNC machine. Like, they are so perfectly cut. They're beautifully smoothened out, and then they're like polished or sanded. It's definitely sanded, never mind. And it's brilliant. The grip feels nice. I don't feel like I'm going to cut my thumb on it. It's smooth when it needs to be and grippy when it has to be, which sounds stupid, but you know that is the case here. And yeah, it's just so refreshing. And then with the undercut, this is also beautifully sanded and smooth. It's more generous than the Rainbow 8 frame. I don't get my knuckle caught on it in any awkward way. It feels natural. The finger grooves help me grab my grip, but I suppose that isn't an issue with the other frame. I didn't specify. I guess that's the difference with this frame, is I had it custom to what I wanted, and the other frame is you just pick it, grab it, go, which convenience will fit some people, but if you've got the time to wait, which wasn't long, Alex turned this around pretty damn quickly. The stipple work is brilliant. This feels a lot more fine in comparison to the Guns Modify frame. It feels like there's lots more texture going on. It doesn't feel used like the other one. I feel like I can really grab it. I'm never going to let go of it. It feels great, and he's got some stippling under here, all over the grip. So he hasn't stippled the gap between the slide stop and the pins, and I think that's much nicer. He says it's truer to T-style, and I trust him. I believe him. I'm not fully educated on him, but Alex shoots in real steel and he stipples real steel grips, so that was one of the reasons I went to him, because I really knew he would know what he's doing. And yeah, and so the other big thing was he didn't stipple where the magwell would be, so it hasn't crushed the stippling, so I can easily put on a magwell and not mess with it. Which is huge, because that's sort of really why I got this. I have no complaints here. I even prefer the finish of the Garda frame too. It feels a bit like the TM one, but less plasticky and less toyish, which is a kind of an oxymoron. So now I'm going to put them side by side and we'll do some visual comparison. As you can see, undercuts on Alex's frame seem a lot more generous, but evenly done. His accelerator cuts are a bit higher up, which is kind of nicer, I guess. I don't really have a preference, or I don't know if I do. And yeah, it just seems massively different, but in all the right ways. And finally, for the differences between the two frames themselves, Guns Modify and Garda, I couldn't for the life of me fit a hammer chassis into the rear here. I was sanding for ages. I used a Dremel. I couldn't do it. So it sat too high up on the rear, and thusly the rail sat too low, so the slide couldn't evenly travel. It was grinding, it was horrible, and it was very obvious that that was the problem, which isn't the case with this Garda frame. I had to do no fitment, everything's dropped in fine, and it works great. I'm pretty damn happy. In comparison, this is a good frame if you prefer the convenience, if you don't want to talk to somebody because you're a social awkward person and this is airsoft, if you just want something good to go and you need it now, I guess is a good choice. It's also cheaper, so I guess if you're on a budget, but honestly it's not worth the stipple work and the fine tuning. What Alex has done has a lot more attention, it has care in it. It feels like it wasn't chucked out by a machine, which I doubt this was, but it feels that way. This does feel custom, it feels good, and I feel an improvement in my game between the two. I feel I can point better with this, I can draw that little hair bit quicker, and it does make the difference. So Alex Fong is who you want to hit up. He'll do pretty much any frame. I know he'll do high caps as well. He'll do different styles, different parts. If there's not a style that even inspires you, I'm sure you can work something out with him where you can have certain bits stippled over others. And yeah, I'd totally recommend him. The process with him was great. He was very informative. He clearly knows his stuff. He didn't feel like I didn't feel like he was wasting my time. I wasn't wasting his time. It felt good. It was a smooth transaction, and it was 100% worth the extra $40. I'd say if you had $50 and you wanted a frame now, you should wait. Don't buy this. Don't waste your time. Go to Alex, get a Garda frame. Don't regret it. And the final thing is, if Alex, if you don't make I guess a stipple Instagram that's called Fong Frames, uh, I think you're missing an opportunity. That's a great business name. I worked on it for a solid 2 minutes, and yeah, happy customer. So I 100% recommend Alex's stippling and a Garda frame over pretty much anything any other company offers, but definitely not Guns Modify.